The Joe Rogan Experience.
So 1998 it started, and why did they? Why no gi back then was very unpopular.
100%. It's sort of an interesting story how it started. So the owner and creator of ADCC is Sheikh Tahnoon, and he was going to college in the 90s in San Diego. UFC comes out in 1993. He gets hooked on it, and he just starts training, walks into a jiu-jitsu school in San Diego and starts training. He hides his identity. No one knows who he is, not even his instructor. He just goes by the name of Ben. And then
That's pretty gangster.
yeah, like literally no one knows who he is except a few people. So he graduates, I believe, in 1995, goes back, and then tells everybody who he actually really is. And you know, he starts creating this rule set. And you're right, no gi back then was just pretty much non-existent. So he went against the grain, and he did something interesting, sort of like what the UFC did. You know, the original UFCs, it wasn't mixed martial arts. It was art versus art. And that was the concept of ADCC. Judo guys versus jiu-jitsu guys versus sambo, et cetera, et cetera. So he created this rule set. And then in 1998, the first ADCC happened in Abu Dhabi.
It was really interesting because back in the day, it was frowned upon to have no gi competitions. Like Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys wanted you to train and compete only in the gi.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you started in the gi, right?
I started in the gi. The first like 2.5 years was only in the gi, and then I made a transition to no gi.
When year did you make the transition?
So I started in 2011. So 2014 is when I really started to make the transition, and then by like late 2015, then it was like pretty much all no gi because I didn't have any gi training partners. Eddie Cummings, Gary, like all the competitors at Henzo's, at least John's students were all no gi guys.
Eddie Cummings, has he vanished?
I have no idea what happened to
I
him.
went to his Instagram the other day to see what he was up to.
He
And it was
posted like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stopped training with us, and then he was training for a while at Unity, and then I haven't talked to him. I don't even know if he's still training. Like he had a PhD in physics, so I heard he like started teaching again. He's got like a normal job now. I have no idea. So maybe he's trains, maybe he doesn't, but he definitely doesn't compete anymore.
So weird. He was so talented.
He was. He went in and was crushing EBIs and had really good, tough ADCC matches. He had that super close match against Tanquinho. And then, he just, like, after the EBI with Gio, where he lost to Gio, he just, like, we didn't see him anymore after that.
Wow. Crazy. But, you know, it's such a wild sport, and it does so much damage to your body. You know, so many guys, I mean, everybody that I talk to years later, like, oh, I got 2 discs replaced in my neck. I got this going on. I got that going on.
Because everything we do is concave shoulders, like with the shoulders coming forward. I can't I can't do like anything overhead. I can't like wash the back of my neck because my shoulders are I'm always inverting doing this. It's like anything like this I can do, but I can't bridge, like trying to scrub my back of my head. I'm like, can't get my shoulders back there. So it's just like all a mess. And I'm only 27, so once I'm 40, I'm going to be fucked.
But I think you could probably fix that.
Yeah, I could. I'm just lazy. I'm just like,
you saying you're lazy is hilarious. That is hilarious.
Every day I go to watch like John teach, and I'm like, just sit up straight. And then I do it for like 30 seconds. I'm like, my back is tired. And then I just like end up sitting like this the whole class. My fucking head's like leaning forward. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, you got to wonder like who's been able to do it the longest? Like what's the longest running like competitor?
I would say there's Andre Galvao.
I mean,
actually.
Andre, yeah, I would say Andre. Because, I mean, he's competing, since he's 16?
He's been at the highest levels for 20 years. You know, I saw him in the early 2000s. There was a documentary called Arte Suave. He was a brown belt back then. This was like 2001, 2, or 3, and here he is.
How old is Andre now?
He's got to be close to 40, right?
I think he's 40. I think he'll be 40 for this ADCC.
Is that his last one?
Well, last year was supposed to be his last one, but then he came back for this one. So I'm going to plan to make sure that it's his last one.
When you do these matches, since you've been doing these no time limit matches like the Felipe match, which I think you really shine in those matches, but that's really for the cognoscente.
Yeah.
You know, that's really for the hardcore people that want to see.
It's not spectator friendly.
Right.
It's just to determine who's better at jiu-jitsu. But no time limit matches for spectators are just atrocious because who the fuck wants to watch 4 hours of jiu-jitsu? Like, most people don't want to watch 10 minutes of jiu-jitsu.
Right.
So who wants to watch like a 2-hour match? But they're important to have sometimes just to show who's the best, because you actually have to do jiu-jitsu and know how to do submissions. Well, not in the Felipe match because there wasn't a submission, but you have to be better at jiu-jitsu than the other guy. There's no stalling and playing tactics for 10 minutes and winning by advantage or 2 points. So they have their place, but to build the sport to a spectator sport is not, no time limit's not the way.
Well, it's not the way for spectators, but it is the way, as you said, to determine who's the best. And I think that's supposedly what jiu-jitsu is all about. Really, the early days of the UFC, there was no time limits because it was just like who wins. And that's the purest form of any martial art. It's like, as soon as you have rounds, then you have people gaming the system. They try to win the round by sprinting the last 30 seconds and really going hard, or trying to figure out a way to manage your time. You can't really do that if there's no time limit.
Which I think that has a place too, like points and rounds and stuff, because then you have the whole tactical element which comes into play.
Yeah.
But I think there's a place for both for sure. But spectators definitely need a time limit. They want to know like when this is going to be over.
It would be fucking wild though if all UFC fights had no time limit in this day and age. I mean, they would be brutal.
Yeah.
Didn't Hoist have like an hour and something match with chemo, I believe, like in one of the.
I don't think it was that long.
It was like something ridiculous.
It was pretty long, but I don't think it was that long.
Okay.
I don't. Find out how long the Hoist chemo match was. I think it just seemed long because it was so crazy.
Because he was finishing everyone so fast, and then he was goes out against chemo, and it was a little bit longer.
Tom Erickson had a match with Murillo Bustamante back in the day in one of the weird, offshoots, one of those little small companies that tried to make a big, like an MMA event. I think it was a no glove event too. It was back in those days, and I think that match went like an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, and Murillo Bustamante was 185 pounds, and Tom Erickson was 300 pounds.
Yeah, he was a monster. I remember Tom Erickson.